Can I start? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Cool. So welcome to this session. This session is named Onboarding a Catalyst 9000 on the Meraki Dashboard, and it is exactly what we are going to do today. My name is Alessandro Maretti. I'm a technical solutions architect for Cisco Meraki. And yeah, welcome. So you should be aware by now that we can keep discussing and you can ask questions after the session. And the way you do it is through the app. So I will be monitoring that app after today for a couple of weeks. So, but you can also come after the session, of course, if you have any specific question. All right. So a little bit about myself. I've been in Cisco for about 7 years. And the last year and a half, I started working with Cisco Meraki. I really love the technology, and I hope to pass some of this enthusiasm to you today. I really like to play around with the stuff before going to talk to customers. And this session, it comes from that first-hand experience that I have on Catalyst and Meraki, and I hope that also is passed to you in this session. I also do a lot of sport, and you can see myself here on my bike and one of the most famous climbs in Italy, which is where I come from, by the way. I never presented anything at Cisco Live, so if I'm a bit nervous, pardon, and I'll try to do my best. So what we do today, we will onboard a Catalyst switch into the Meraki dashboard. And when I'm talking about Catalyst switch today, I'm referring to a Catalyst iOS XC device. So the traditional Cisco switch, all right? Before doing that, we will look at some of the technical prerequisites that we have in order to do the onboarding, because we need to check a couple of things before we're able to do so. After the onboarding, we will navigate through the dashboard and look at what we can actually do on the dashboard when we have that device onboarded. All right. So, but why do we do that in the first place? The main objective is that we want to deliver visibility across your network stack. So imagine you are in a situation where you have a mix of Catalyst iOS XC devices and Meraki devices, and you want to have a single platform where you see them both and where you can act upon on both. And that goes across iOS XC devices, switching, and wireless, as it was announced during the Cisco Live in these days. The second thing is that we want to give you some tools to troubleshoot your infrastructure. So think about spanning tree problems, port flapping, links going up and down, or VLAN mismatches. All these kind of problems can be seen on the Meraki dashboard for the switch that has been onboarded on that. So the overall objective is to maximize your network performance and uptime. All right. So how do we do that? We build basically a TLS, so a secure tunnel between your Catalyst iOS XC device and the cloud, and the Meraki cloud. And on this tunnel, we pass all the all the assurance and the telemetry information that we need to give you back some information on the dashboard. So it's mainly netconf, IPFix for application visibility, and then it's syslog, SNMP, SFTP for pickups, for packet captures, and netconf traffic. All this traffic is passed on the TLS tunnel. So that's the main point here today, is to build that secure and safe connection. So the agenda for today, we will look what are the supported models, and then what are the technical requirements for the onboarding to happen, and then we will do the actual onboarding on the Meraki platform. So supported models, I'm gonna go quite quick on that, because we support Catalyst 9000 devices, and specifically 9200, 9300, and 9500 devices. We do not support today modular devices, so the 9400 and the 9600. We do need to have at least the IOS XC 17.3 with the payload encryption, and we need an active DNA license. It can be DNA Advantage or Essential, it doesn't matter. With the DNA Advantage license, you get application visibility on the dashboard as well. So this is the main difference between the two licensing tiers. So requirements, let's look at them. The first and most important is that you have to have SSH enabled on the device. It shouldn't be a problem if you are used to access to the CLI to do the configuration. And you need to have a local user with privilege 15 on that device. The reason why I say that is the most important piece is because the onboarding app, which we will see on a later stage, will access your device to do the configuration that is needed to build that TLS tunnel. And if any of the other prerequisites that I'm going to show you later are not met, it's going to tell you exactly what needs to be fixed. So once you have that SSH user, you're basically almost done with the onboarding process. Then we have to have IP routing enabled and a default route. And we only support the default VRF. Okay, so we will build that TLS tunnel from a front panel port. So we don't use the management port, for example. And we support only the VRF, the default VRF at this time. Then we need to have a DNS server configured. In this example, I have 2. And you need to have the AAA service enabled. So you need to have the AAA new model command. And the authorization is must be with exec privileges. Okay, it's just a few commands, but in order to do the onboarding, we need to have this stuff enabled. In terms of connectivity, what do I need to open on the firewall to allow that TLS tunnel to be built? We use port 443, and we use one of these 3 destinations, depending on where your dashboard is located, your organization is based, if it's in the US, European Union, or APJC. All right. The device to test that port 443 is enabled will try to open a telnet connection using the port 443. So the outbound connection, the outbound telnet connection should be also enabled. NTP must be enabled, and the NTP server, and the NTP clock must match your dashboard location. And finally, we need to have, we will be using loopback 1000 or loopback 2000, and we will need at least 2 VTY slots available. Also, we are using specific ACL names, so we make sure that you're not using these names, even though it's very unlikely that you are. All right, so these are the few prerequisites that you need to check. Again, once the onboarding app will access the switch via SSH, you are basically good to go, because it will check all this stuff before doing the onboarding. So finger crossed that everything is going to be working now. Let's try to do the onboarding together. So I'm moving to a Windows machine just because this is able to reach my switch, which I have in Rome. And we will go to the Meraki dashboard. I'll log in into the dashboard, username and password, and I'm basically in. So the network I'm using is called Roma Transit. And let's see what's inside the Roma Transit network. We have 2 switches. And as you can see here, they are both Catalyst 9300 devices. But these are devices in managed mode. So they are managed by Cisco Meraki Dashboard. So if I click on one of these devices and I try to go on a switch port, I'm able to edit the port, do all the configuration. So this is a Meraki managed device. So it is as either being converted to Meraki or it was bought as a Meraki in the Meraki mode. And this is the kind of new things that we do. So we are converging the hardware from the physical point of view. But this is not what we are going to do today, because we are looking at the monitoring mode. Okay, so iOS XE device, CLI, but monitored by the Meraki dashboard. And let me show you another thing. If I not go on network-wide topology, it will show me that I have two Meraki devices, and which are recognized as being Meraki devices, of course. And then I have these squares, which means that this is a non-Meraki device. And it is in fact a Catalyst 9300, the one that we are going to onboard on the dashboard. All right. So how do I move forward? I will go on organization, inventory, and there is a prompt here that it asks me to add my Cisco Catalyst 9000 devices into the dashboard. If I click on Learn How, it will ask me to download the onboarding app. It's available for macOS, Windows, and Linux. In this case, I will pick Windows and hit download. The network in Azure is much better than the network here. So the 90 meg has been downloaded, and I click on it. The onboarding app is now being installed on the computer. So the computer that I'm using should be able to reach the switch via SSH. Okay. So the onboarding app has been installed. It's automatically checking if there is any update. And now it's loading. It's loading. Oh, I just closed it. Let me open it again. All right. So the first thing I get asked is the API key of my organization. So let's go back to the dashboard. And where do I get an API key? Is on organization, API, and webhooks. Then I go to API keys and access, generate a new API key. Bear in mind, the API key is very important because you can do pretty much anything with knowing the API key. So you need to store it safely in somewhere and confirm it to us, of course. Done. So I'm not using this API key because it takes a few seconds before it gets active. I have an API key here that we are going to use for the onboarding. Copy it and go back to the onboarding app and paste it here. And hit on start. So I logged in, and the API key is connecting my onboarding app with my Meraki dashboard organization. I am admin only of one organization, which is the Meraki Lab Italy. And I click on it and hit on next. So now is asking me the IP address of the switch that I want to onboard. All right. The thing is that now I put my IP address, but I could put many together. So I could do a massive onboarding, basically, onboard more than one switch at a time. I only have one, and that's the IP address. I'm going to put the password of the admin user that I will access the switch via SSH. Once I am place the password inside, I will the onboarding app will try to reach the switch via SSH. Let's see if I put the correct passwords. Yes. So as connected to via SSH to the switch, and as checked that the user has the correct privileges to do the onboarding. All right. So let's click on next. The next step is what I was referring to you before. So the onboarding app is going to check all the prerequisites for the onboarding. And if any is not met, it will tell me exactly what it needs to be fixed. Let's see if I did everything right. IRSXE, image with payload encryption, AAA. Looks like my switch is actually ready for onboarding. So everything was already configured correctly, and I can move forward. I click on next. It's asking me now in which network of the Meraki dashboard I want to put this switch. And if you recall, I was working with the Roma Transit network. Click on next. And we are about to begin the actual onboarding. Before doing that, it will show me exactly which configuration changes are made on the switch, so I can check and if everything is fine and if it's within my policies, for example, or even just for out of curiosity. So if we check the details, it will tell me for each of these chapters which configuration changes are made. So for example, removing previous cloud monitoring configurations. I've done this demo many times, so every time it's cleaning up a little bit what I did before. Configuring the system services like LLDP, SSH, and so on. Configuring some access list, for example. Creating a local user that is going to be used by the cloud to connect to my switch. And finally, creating that TLS tunnel that we were talking about before. All right. So let's say we don't have time today to go through everything, but let's say I'm good with that. Click on close, select the switch, click on next. And then is asking the final question. Are you actually sure you want to do this? And we do. Yeah. Save. And then it's doing all the stuff. All right. So if I click on the arrow here, you get the details. But it's basically doing a backup of the configuration, and then it's doing all that configuration for me. Okay. So it takes let's say a few seconds for the process to finish, and so we will wait for that to happen. So if you have multiple switches, you could do that at scale, and it's exactly the same process that I'm showing to you. So the last step is the onboarding app is actually checking that the device was connected, and eventually the process is being completed. So it's about 30 seconds or something like that. So let's go back to the dashboard, and let's go back to the switching tab, which I showed you before. So you should be seeing that we have something new, and it's actually that Catalyst 9300. It's called distribution. That's just the host name of the device. And we have this nice flag here saying, look, this is in monitor only. So you cannot do changes on these devices using the dashboard, but you get a lot of other stuff that I'm going to show you today. First, before doing that, let's go back to the topology and see what has changed compared to before. So now the Catalyst 9300 that before it was unknown or unrecognized has become part of the Meraki infrastructure. So it's actually into the Meraki dashboard. If I click on it, I will go to that specific device, and I have the exact same interface that I have on a native Meraki device. Okay, so the port status, for example, as you can see here, the traffic and the client usage, and so on. The difference is that if I click on the port, I won't have that edit button there because this is in monitor only. But I can see the configuration. For example, I can see this is a trunk port. I can see the allowed VLANs and so on. All right. If I go down, there is also a lot of other stuff that you can do. For example, you can run a packet capture. Basically, without doing any action, I can start a packet capture. It collects the packets for 60 seconds, and it automatically downloads the pickups to my computer. I can do the cycle port. I can do the stats of that interface. All right. So other stuff, very nice. I get access to the terminal. All right. So I can see and I can run a show command without having that SSH credential, for example. So this is perfect for like a first level support that needs to access to the device without having the possibility of breaking stuff. I can give this kind of access. We cannot do changes to the configuration through this terminal for now. Another nice thing, I can access the config history. Right now, I cannot because the switch has just been onboarded. It takes a few minutes to sync, but I have it. I have it here recorded. Hit on config history. The configuration gets backed up every few minutes, every 15 minutes, sorry. And I can compare different configuration timestamps. And it's going to tell me exactly what has two timestamps, different timestamps. Okay. Another cool thing, let's go back to the dashboard. If I go to alerts, I also get alerts for cloud monitored devices. Specifically, I can check if any port has gone down for a few minutes, if there is any switch offline, or if there is any of these things that you see here can prompt email, a webhook, or any action actually. Another nice thing is that once the switch has onboarded on the dashboard, you can also use the APIs of Meraki to pull information for that switch. Okay. What about the onboarding app? Once the switch is onboarded, I can basically forget about the onboarding app. It's just needed for the actual onboarding of the switch into the Meraki dashboard. Okay. So conclusion. So we saw how to onboard a device on the Meraki dashboard. We looked at what were the requirements for that to happen. So which iOS XE release we need and which platforms we support. And we did the actual onboarding, and then we saw some of the features that are available on the platform. Consider that we are developing more and more features for the monitor devices. For example, very soon you're going to be able to do the iOS XE upgrade of the device, and it's going to be under organization firmware upgrades, which is where you do it for Meraki managed devices. And many new things are coming once you create that TLS tunnel. So I know Cisco Live is almost over. Most of these sessions have already been played. One interesting thing, and I want you to watch the recording once it's going to be available, is the monitoring the Cisco Catalyst Wireless, because we are enabling this feature also for WLC 9800 and all the access points that are connected to them. So very soon you're going to be able to see and have this kind of integration also for Cisco managed wireless networks. All right. So again, if you have any question, write them in the WebEx app or come after the session. I'll be happy to answer. And it would be nice if you could leave a nice review of this session and get a t-shirt as well. Thank you very much.